Good evening. A new survey has found huge differences in how many wheelie bins we have, with the national winner right here in the Midlands. The survey also says that bins and rubbish bags are changing the way we're building the homes of the future. Andy Bevan has been sorting out the facts into neat little piles for tonight's top story.
Last year we produced around 400 kilograms of waste for every man, woman and child in the country. That's around 21.5 million metric tonnes in all. About a quarter of that is now recycled, following government campaigns and council schemes to get us all to separate our rubbish out before we throw it out. But depending on where you live, that can mean filling anything from one refuse container to a staggering 9. In 2013, Community Secretary Eric Pickles said, "In streets up and down the country, ugly bin clutter has ruined the street scene and the look of people's homes and gardens." And now the National House Building Council Foundation says the number of bins we have to deal with is impacting on how architects are designing new developments, and they've compiled new figures to show just how wide the gap is. In their survey of 325 councils in England, only 2 collect just 1 bin for all waste. 18 councils have 2 bins, 93 have 3 bins. The majority, 105, have 4 bins, 69 have 5, 33 have 6, 4 have 7, and 1 council insists on 9. That place is Newcastle-under-Lyme in Staffordshire. Our cameras were there when the 9 bin and bag bonanza was introduced in 2011, and back then the residents were finding it tough.
Well, it's a bit of a nightmare really, because first of all you've got to find somewhere to store all these containers, and then when we do have recycling days we end up with a lot of litter on the streets because of the flimsy bags, and it's particularly bad on windy days.
4 years on, and families like the Wynns have grown used to the daily task of ransacking through their rubbish to separate it out for recycling.
It's a bit crazy, especially on a night time when you've put the kids to bed and the last thing you want to do is stand and go through everything.
Newcastle pensioner Phyllis Barlow says 9 is definitely not her favourite number.
When we first did it, it was most confusing. We were putting paper in with cardboard and plastic in with tins. I think we ought to reduce them, really.
Newcastle Borough Council argues that its recycling rate has risen steadily since the scheme was introduced, and says its figures are above the national average of 25%. So how is it that some people only have 1 bin? Well, some areas have recycling centres like this one, where workers are paid to separate the waste, but this one costs £60 million, and most local authorities simply couldn't afford such an investment. So the sorting is left to the council taxpayers. In fact, things are about to get even more complicated. New EU regulations came into force last month which say that things like paper, glass, metal and plastic have to be separated even more carefully. What that means is that a can like this you can put straight into the recycling. Whereas with this one, you'd have to peel the label off first. And you can guess where that's likely to lead. Yes, more bins. Andy Bevan, ITV News.
A 91-year-old former PE teacher and youth club leader has been convicted of sexual offences he committed more than 40 years ago. Marcus Markison from Tenbury Wells was found guilty at Birmingham Crown Court of 25 counts of sexual assault on boys. The offences happened at Ilmington Comprehensive School in Wheelie Castle and a nearby youth club from the 1950s to the 1970s. In a statement, West Midlands Police said his victims were left traumatised by what happened and continue to suffer to this day. But they have shown commendable courage to draw a line under the abuse they suffered as children and see their attacker face justice. Markison will be sentenced on Friday. The West Midlands economy would be boosted by millions of pounds and thousands of jobs would be created if more affordable homes were built in the region. That's according to the National Housing Federation. Last year, almost 1,800 affordable homes were built in the West Midlands, but the Federation says 7,000 should be built each year. It says 975 homes are needed in the Black Country. That could boost the economy by £36 million and create almost 800 jobs. In Stoke-on-Trent and Staffordshire, even more homes are needed, and that would provide an even bigger boost for the area's economy. But it's the greater Birmingham and Solihull areas which need the most affordable homes, more than 2,500, and that will boost the economy by £95 million, creating more than 2,000 jobs. Well, earlier, Henry Gregg from the National Housing Federation told us why more affordable homes aren't being built.
Well, we're calling on the government to end the housing crisis within a generation, and what that means is that they will bring forward land, they'll bring forward investment, and they'll also allow freedoms for housing associations to build the homes we desperately need. But what we really need is political leadership, and that means that politicians at a local and national level are actually committed to ending the housing crisis, and that people call them to account to actually end this crisis once and for all. We think that the tide is turning and more people want to see homes built in their area. There's lots of people who are struggling to find affordable rents, who are struggling to get onto the housing ladder, and in that way people will actually get the affordable homes they need in their area to allow them to stay in their area and thrive.
That's Henry Gregg from the National Housing Federation speaking on the programme earlier on. The London Taxi Company has applied for planning permission to build a new state-of-the-art facility near Coventry. Part of the application for the site at Anstey Park says the company expects to make 12,000 vehicles a year after investing £200 million to develop green technology. It also anticipates an increase in the workforce to more than 1,000. Rugby Borough Council is due to discuss the proposals next Wednesday. It's estimated that up to half of the food that we prepare is thrown away. In Europe alone, around 100 million tonnes of food is wasted last year, and that figure is rising. Janelle Aldred has been to the Birmingham division of the Real Junk Food Project, a charity that's found a unique solution to the problem.
Hi Lee.
Hi George.
Are you okay?
What have you got for us today?
Volunteers from this charity work across the country intercepting edible food before it's thrown away.
Beef burgers? Yep.
The Plough in Harborne, Birmingham is one restaurant which donates food to the project.
On a Saturday and Sunday we were throwing away about 40 litres of food. So it's all edible food we're giving to them instead of obviously it going down the mush or into the bin. We've been with the Sustainable Restaurant Association for about 11 months now. We've got 1 star at the moment, which is brilliant.
Not all food that cannot be sold is inedible. So how do they intercept food that would otherwise be thrown away?
One of the main sources that we get the food waste from is from Birmingham markets. On a Saturday we have a very good arrangement with the traders on the market. An awful lot of food gets thrown away. So this week we had more than this. We've been cooking for 2 days with it, but we've got a lot of grapes which we can make really good use of. These are still in really
A quarter of a tonne is the largest amount they've intercepted on a Saturday, and that's becoming a regular occurrence. But it's in the cafe's kitchen where the edible waste is turned into a menu.
Hello Shirley, how are you?
I'm fine. What's for dinner?
Plantain curry. The Scotch bonnet in there.
More and more businesses are paying attention now that this model has been created. We want to really change the perception of what people think is edible. When a banana goes brown, it's still edible.
Whilst lunch is being served here, a dent is being made in the 1,500 tonnes of food thrown away in the Midlands every day. But as well as answering a food wastage problem, the Real Junk Food Project is also answering a community problem.
I think it's fantastic the way that the Real Junk Food Project attached to a number of different community organisations. In some areas churches, in some areas community centres, and it is making a difference across the country.
Customers are allowed to pay what they can afford for their meal, opening up the cafe to the whole community.
This is nice because a few days you can, when you're sort of running out of money, you can put a few pence in, and other days when you have more money, you can put, more notes in.
This charity says that enough food is produced to feed the world twice over, and that smarter food distribution would help lessen food wastage. Janelle Aldred, ITV News.
Now it's time to get the weather forecast for tomorrow, and with the details, here's Manali Luca.
What's in store for today? ITV Local Weather, sponsored by Centre Parks.
Hello there, good evening to you. We'll keep fairly cloudy conditions over the next couple of days, but staying mostly dry, and the cloud breaking up from time to time to give us some bright spells. Overnight tonight it's a cloudy picture. Most places staying dry, but the cloud thick enough in places to produce perhaps a bit of light rain and drizzle, and we could see some breaks develop in the cloud too to give us some mist and fog patches by dawn, but not as extensive as yesterday. And tomorrow another largely dry but fairly cloudy day. The cloud's thick enough at times to produce a bit of drizzle in the air. A few bright spells can't be ruled out, but on the whole cloudy and staying rather cool as well, temperatures ranging between 5 and 7 degrees Celsius.
ITV Local Weather, sponsored by Centre Parks.
And that's almost it from us for tonight. Just time, though, to give you a result in football. Aston Villa lost 2-0 away at Hull. For the rest of tonight's results, go to our website, itv.com/central. We're back with in the bulletins in Good Morning Britain. But for now, from the late team, good night.